Hello, everyone. Rob Guest from football.london here, and welcome to the latest episode of Golden Guest Talk Tottenham, sponsored by NordVPN. Joining me as ever, it's Alistair Gold. Ali, you well?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Hope you are too. It's quite nice because we always plan, I think, especially in the summer, to try and do two a week because there's so many different things that happen, and it is quite nice when you get a week where there has been lots of stuff happening. And yeah, there's been a few decisions by the club in recent days, few decisions by the England manager as well. We've had a new kit. We've had various bits and pieces that we can chat about, and bits of news as well that's out there too. So another second edition for us to chat about stuff.
Yeah, we are going to start with James Maddison, as he has missed out on Gareth Southgate's England squad for Euro 2024 in Germany. Maddison was named as part of a provisional 33-man list. Gareth Southgate needs to whittle that down to 26 players by midnight on Friday. So far, news broke on Wednesday evening. Maddison's not part of the squad and he's left the camp. This morning, Thursday morning, we've had the news that Curtis Jones and Gerald Kwanzaa from Liverpool, they're not part of the plans for this summer in Germany. So there's four more players who will be missing out. We're not sure who those are yet, but I'm sure we'll find out across the next 36 hours or so. So, yeah, quite a disappointing day for James Maddison to miss out on the England squad. But I think some maybe predicted he would be one of the seven to miss out.
It's brutal, isn't it? It's such a brutal way of doing it. I mean, you can look at it in two sides. You can look at it as, well, they were in the reckoning and I had another chance. And I must admit, I was watching that first game the other night. He came on for about half an hour, didn't he, towards the end? And it was just painstaking. You're kind of like, kind of hoping something falls for him. And just there was so many occasions when the ball just didn't quite break for him. Was it Grealish played the ball into his path when he ran into the box late on? And it was a kind of combination of the ball being overhit to him and him not being able to take it under control. And you think, if he placed that in the corner, it's just that little extra thing that makes it difficult to drop him. And it is brutal, especially, to not have the second game to kind of start and have that chance. There were some suggestions that he was going to start that game. And it seems a little bit like what's brought about the decision ahead of the match, whether something behind the scenes has kind of push that on that little bit quicker. I don't know, but I would have liked to have seen him get a start. But it just seems, I could be wrong. I could be massively overshooting here, but it just kind of feels like Southgate's never really truly taken to James Maddison. And look, don't get me wrong. I don't think Maddison's had a great second half to the season. I think he is, unfortunately, the return from his injury. He hasn't been sharp enough to probably warrant his inclusion anyway in the final squad. But it just feels like Southgate has never truly appreciated, I guess, what he could do, or has seen that others can do more for him. And I kind of feel like to have been dropped already, albeit with a couple of others. I know there's some that are still potentially not going to be there, but with Maddison, we obviously definitely know it's the case, and he appears to have left the England camp too. Yeah, it just feels a bit brutal, but hey, if you're going to look for a positive as a Tottenham fan, yes, we've kind of lost the one person that Spurs fans can look at in that England squad and really take as their own. Obviously, I'm sure some people still feel that way for Harry Kane. Some very well may not anymore. But in a kind of selfish point of view, it means that Maddison's going to get a full summer to rest up that body after the issues of last year or last season. And Postecoglou will have a full pre-season with him again this time around, although didn't technically get a full preseason, did he, last time? Did he rock up a couple of weeks before the tour? It was almost a full preseason, I think, if it wasn't.
I can't remember, to be
I'd have to have a
honest.
look.
I can't remember if he was involved in the England internationals 12 months ago. But given it is the 6th of June, you would imagine he's there pretty much for the start of pre-season. Might not be the first day,
I
but
take
he'll
it
be
back.
there very early on.
28th, 29th of June. 29th of June, I think, technically, was the deal. It was that was announced. So, might have been 28th, actually. But yeah, so he would have been there for the start of pre-season. Ignore me. But yeah, he'll get a full run at it this summer, and we saw the first half of the season he had was terrific. And if he can replicate that and just find the consistency in the second half, and obviously steer clear of any more injury problems. But yeah, on an England level, it's a shame, but there are a lot of very talented attacking midfielders in that England squad. It was always going to be one of the toughest areas to get picked in.
Yeah, I had him down as one of the 7 I thought wouldn't make it.
Did you
I
have a
thought it
word
was,
in Gareth's ear? Did you? Were you sending him emails again?
yeah, must have been. But it benefits Tottenham though. Like you say, have a bit of a rest this summer. He'll probably have, a bit of fire in his belly going into the season, wanting to prove Gareth Southgate and the England coaching staff wrong. That he should have been part of the squad for the Euros. But I just don't think he's done enough in the second part of the campaign. It's been nowhere near the levels he showed, in the opening, 3 months of the season. And at a time when he struggled, there's players like Eberechi, Eze at Crystal Palace who've overtaken him. So he's been sensational in the running. And then you've got the likes of Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden as well for that position as well. So there's so much quality in there. And it's going to be really hard, not only to get into the squad, but break into the starting 11. I mean, even if he did make the squad, I don't think he'd have probably played much, if at all.
Yeah.
And I think that was the case for him at the World Cup. I think he'd gone to the World Cup and not even played.
He went with an injury, didn't he? Just recovered in time, I think, and didn't really play.
Yeah, but I think it's only 7 England appearances he's made. He's 27 years old. And like we said, with the players ahead of him, it's hard to see where he's actually going to add to these England caps that he's already got. But yeah, I just think form in the second half of the season's probably the reason why he's not part of the final squad. And I know a lot will point to the fact that Southgate doesn't necessarily go on form, given the inclusions of, Harry Maguire, Calvin Phillips, Jordan Henderson in the past. But there are a lot of really good options there. And I think for Spurs, it's probably better if he has a bit of a rest rather than going to the Euros and not even playing at all.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I did feel, funnily enough, in the last few games of the season, he was starting to rediscover some of the kind of strands of that rhythm that he had before. But yeah, not to be. And now, yeah, proper rest up. And sometimes as well, on a personal level, a player with a point to prove is no bad thing for the club as well. Because, I mean, the chances are it could be a New England manager after this tournament. And again, that kind of wipes the slate clean. And yeah, I think him having a point to prove is no bad thing at all for Tottenham and the rest. But yeah, just a shame, obviously, on a personal level for him. But I can kind of understand the decision this time around.
Yeah, Angie's actually going to have quite a lot of players to work with, at the start of July, even though there's 2 major tournaments going on this summer with Euro 2024 and the Copa America. I think in terms of the Spurs players at the Euros, it's Vicario, Dragashin, Van der Ven and Højbjerg. Copa America, Bentancur, Romero and Lo Celso. So the 7 players there, 2 of them, Højbjerg and Lo Celso, could potentially not even be Tottenham players, come July, August time. So Ange actually isn't missing that many of his squad. And I think that's a good thing that he could potentially have about 30 first team players to work with come the start of July. Quite a good chunk of those will move on to Pastures New because they'll be returning from the loan spells. But I think that's what you want at the start of pre-season, to have the vast majority of your squad already in place.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether they'll lose any to the Olympics. There was talk of Romero, which Ange, I asked him about that. He pretty much shot that down. He was like, no, we're going to have a big season. I'm sure Christian's aware of that, and I'll be needing him for that. But I wonder if there's any kind of younger players. The only squad that I've seen, a preliminary squad, was the French squad. Haven't seen too many mentioned yet. I was trying to wonder if there's any of the younger players that might make it in there. But yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be quite a decent preseason in that respect. That a lot of the people will be there. The only thing you could argue is potentially, I suppose, is new signings if they're at the Euros and Copa America, how that affects negotiations, but also when they kind of link up with the team too. But other than that, yeah, it's no excuses really for pre-season, because he'll have a lot of those kind of faces there, and good news for the people of Japan and Korea as well, who will be going to the games, because they'll get to see more of those stars.
Yeah, exactly that. There was some other news on Wednesday with Spurs, confirming their release list following the conclusion of the 23-24 Premier League season. 4 first-team stars on there. 2 of those, Japet Tanganga and Ryan Sessegnon. The other 2 players were Eric Dyer and Ivan Perisic. I think we already knew that because they'd both headed out on loan in January, that those were pretty much permanent moves anyway, with Dyer joining Bayern Munich and Perisic at Hajduk Split. The Tanganga news was a bit of a surprise, it's fair to say.
Yeah. Spurs have got this habit, and we're really noticing it since a certain time. I think it's maybe from 2019 onwards. They had this real habit of announcing when a player signs for them, they announce the contract. And we're now starting to realize that a lot of the contracts were announced with the extra option of a year included in the headline number. So you'll sometimes think, oh, it's a long-term deal. And we're now finding out towards the end of their time, actually, it was like a 4-year deal with a 1 year extra on top of it, if they wanted to take it. And we found that out with Cess a couple of months back, didn't we? At first, and then we found out a month ago or so that he'd been told that he wasn't going to be kept. Same with Joe Rodon. We know that Joe Rodon had, when he signed in 2020, he was given a 4-year deal until this summer, and then Spurs have actually already activated the extra option on his to take it to 2025, presumably because they'll think that they'll get money for him this summer. Which kind of, I guess you could argue, is a little bit surprising they didn't do similar with Japhet. Japhet's deal, we all assumed was running till next summer, but it appears that it was also, well, we know it was also another option for another further 12 months that wasn't taken. There was a fair bit of interest in him, obviously mainly from Millwall, but perhaps when it comes to Japhet, some of that interest maybe was from teams at that level, who maybe didn't have the funds and were looking at this as, well, if you let him go, we'll take him, kind of thing, or maybe looking further down the line, and then it becomes, I guess, a little bit of a risk of signing up the player to another year when there's a bit of doubt over whether you are actually going to be able to let him go. You're just kind of whacking wages onto your bill for another year. But yeah, it's sad to see both he and Sessegnon go. Both of them, I think it's a good moment in their careers to now find the next challenge. I don't think that makes it any sadder that they're going. I think, people have heard me say about Cess before that he just was such an incredible talent when he was a young player, and just those hamstring problems have just destroyed so much of his career so far. I mean, I think you wrote in your piece, wasn't it, 57 times? That's all he's played for Spurs, Cess, in 5 years. That's just mad. Obviously, you've got to take into account there was a year at Hoffenheim on loan as well, where he did play reasonably regularly. But just such a talented player. And I do feel like people's frustrations with his injuries, and sometimes the way he was when he first came back from injuries and not looking as sharp, or fears over causing hamstring problems, maybe give a bit of a false impression of someone that was one of the best young players in the game in Europe, let alone England, when he was in his teens. And it's still mad that he only turned, I think it was 24, was it last month or the one before? It's just, he's so young relatively still. He's got his whole career stretched out ahead of him, and I really hope he has a kind of a great stab at it. His farewell message was really nice, and really kind of understanding of the situation he'd been in and how difficult it'd been. And with Japhet, I feel like Japhet's always suffered from being homegrown and versatile, which shouldn't be something you suffer from. But I actually felt they always just kind of kept him round as the utility man if they ever needed him. And there was a couple of years back, when he desperately could have done with a loan, a little bit like Skippy with this coming season. And you think if he'd had a loan, maybe he would have developed a better rate. He also had his injuries, Japhet, with, I think it was knee problems and back problems at times. But I'm just so delighted for him. The last 6 months at Millwall have been brilliant. They've been everything that he needed, I think, in his career. And hopefully now he goes on and has a terrific kind of professional career still. I think he's 25 now, which is just crazy how fast that time's gone. But yeah, sad to see. But hopefully for both of them now, that's a chance to push on in their careers, and both of them hopefully put their injury woes behind them would be great.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where Tanganga goes, because Millwall and Neil Harris are absolutely desperate to bring him back to the Den.
Yeah.
He was so impressive there, given the first part of the season where he didn't even make a single appearance for Augsburg, to then play, I think it was 17 successive starts in the Championship for Millwall. And he was a pivotal figure, because there was a point around February time when they, had to get rid of Joe Edwards and bring in Neil Harris, that they were looking at potentially relegation to League One. And in the end, they produced this incredible run of form where they finished 13th. And he was a key part of that. And you could see how much he's adored at Millwall by that video of him at the end of the season awards where they're singing his name.
It's lovely.
So
he scored a few goals as well.
Yeah, I think one at Southampton and the last minute winner against Birmingham at home. So, I mean, do you go back to Millwall where things were working really good for you, or do you look elsewhere? It's going to be an interesting one for him.
Free agent, that's the thing. He'll have a lot of interest as a free agent.
Yeah,
and maybe that's part of it. Maybe the club have decided, for the sake of whatever they would have got, which might have been nominal, maybe, I don't know, amount, this way, they're kind of a player who's always been there for them as well. It's kind of giving him something a little bit back. I don't know whether that is something that really truly exists in football or not, but he will now have his pick of clubs.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be interest from Italy there. There always is with Tanganga. He's always linked with a move to Serie A. It's never quite happened for him yet.
Because of his agent. He's repped by a kind of a UK-based Italian company. So, yeah, there's always Italian links. Yeah, maybe, maybe Jose will want him. Fenerbahce or Antonio at Napoli now. I'm intrigued to see who those two managers start looking at Spurs. I think there could be a few.
Yeah, I probably won't go to the Turkish league if it was Tanganga and the option was there. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he does next season after such a strong end to this campaign. In terms of Ryan Sessegnon, to be brutally honest, I don't think you could have offered him an extension, another 12 months, really, because given the limited amount of football he's played, there could be a realistic chance of him barely featuring for Spurs again, and then you pay X amount in wages. You might not get a transfer fee for him in 12 months' time.
Well, it'd be January, wouldn't it? That's putting a lot of pressure on a January window to try to get something back for him.
Yeah. And is there going to be a lot of interest in a player who's, played 7 minutes of first team football last season? He's played 57 appearances for Spurs across 4 seasons, with one of those seasons at Hoffenheim not including those numbers in those stats. But when you look at the amount of games Tottenham have been playing in recent seasons, 45 to 50 games a season. So he's played 57 of maybe between 180 and 200 games.
Yeah.
He's not really good when you're looking at the numbers like that. But
no, I think that's a short-term deal. I think quite a few clubs will look at him. I don't know if they do pay-as-you-play deals like they used to do back in the day anymore. But I think someone will take a chance on him. I wonder if it's someone like an Ipswich or someone like that has a look at him and thinks, well, okay, if we can get him going again, and if this surgery, as they hope, on both legs has really sorted out the hamstring problems, who knows? But yeah, I agree. He hasn't played enough. Of course,
I'm sure there will be clubs queuing up, or a few clubs interested in him. But I know he said after the second surgery he had it on his hamstring, he knows how well the surgery on the left hamstring has gone and how strong it is now. And they said it on the podcast. I don't know, this might have been a couple of months back, that, he might have only played 7 minutes of first team football, but in the long run, that might be the best thing for him, not playing at all this season. And then that might prolong his career even further.
Also, you often get these players that were like superstars when they were 16, 17 that burn out later on. If you're going to try and look for any positive, which he won't see much of because it's been devastating really for him the last couple of years, but you could maybe argue his career could end up lengthening, and he could get those years he's missed back at the end of it, perhaps. His
Yeah,
body
very
will feel
much
the
so.
pressure.
His statement was very emotional. That bit,
Yeah,
it broke my heart.
yeah,
Not to play more in front of Tottenham fans.
it's very sad.
Yeah, really, really sad for him. But that everyone connected with the club will be having the fingers crossed that he goes on, gets a good move, and can get his career firmly back on track, because he's a very good footballer. Unfortunately, we just didn't see it on the regular basis at Spurs.
No, that 2019 transfer window though, wow, it's not looked like a great one. Do you remember the excitement around it at the
Yeah.
time? Wow, and they spent what 160, 170 million, something like that, all in when you take everything in to get Tongi, Lo Celso, Jack Clark, and Ryan Sessegnon. And you look back now, and it's like, wow, could all be gone this summer, couldn't they?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Mm.
And I think we were speaking about this earlier. It's probably only Lo Celso who's made over 100 appearances for Spurs, and
And
this was only recently when
yeah,
he, completed that achievement.
but it does
Uh,
show you. It shows you, doesn't it? You can spend as much as you like and get very excited about players. If you're not picking the right players, doesn't matter how much. I mean, we're seeing that at Chelsea, of course. Throwing money at something isn't the solution. It's throwing money at the right solutions, isn't it? And that to 2019, I remember being so excited about certain elements of it. I remember at the time thinking, well, they didn't actually cover enough of the squad that they needed. And Mauricio Pochettino being pretty annoyed that they didn't get a striker in at the time. I remember that as well, another striker. But yeah, still, I don't think anyone could have expected just how dreadful the kind of trajectory of those four players at the club would end up being. Just nothing really, did they? I mean, little bits and moments here and there, but no one a regular contributor to the club.
no, literally just flashes
Mm.
from the players. Jack Clark just didn't get a look in at all, but
No.
he's managed to kick on now at Sunderland,
Yeah,
and you'd expect he will get a move at some point in the future if his form carries on.
it's Spurs, isn't it? The theme will be that all four will go on and leave Spurs and have terrific careers.
Well, look at all the medals that Ndombele's won so
Oh
far
my god!
since leaving.
Through very little effort as well in most cases, especially last season.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even if you look at the summer of 2020, at that time everyone was thinking that's like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 window,
Yeah,
because Jose Mourinho, brought players in for all these problem positions. Gareth Bale had come back, and he's probably only Pierre-Emile Højbjerg who was a success out of those 6 signings. I think there was Reguilon, Joe Rodon, Bale, Carlos Vinicius, Joe Hart, I think. Was
yeah. I
that
think
the
Joe Hart
6th
was that.
one?
Matt Doherty.
Doherty as
Um,
well. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, it was. I agree. I was probably going to do a piece on this at some point today about those windows because, yeah, after we'd been chatting about the 2019 one, I did start thinking about the 2021, and yeah, most of them are going to have end up either left or surplus to requirements. I know we're 4 years on and football moves quickly, but yeah, it's incredible that. And I watched, I presume you maybe saw it as well, the Champions League final footage with Bale and Mourinho together as pundits, and it was a bit like it was all very nicey, but you could just tell there was this little bit of it didn't really work, did it? It didn't work between those two, and then he had that funny little comment about. I think Bale, to be fair, said he got me towards the end of my career, and Mourinho said, yeah, he was already thinking about winning Augusta and stuff like that, and you kind of just knew that yeah, it was like the one time we Spurs finally managed to get Bale back, but it was probably the wrong time to finally get him back. He still contributed, but just yeah, under Mourinho, it was never really a match made in heaven.
No, certainly not. Right, we will discuss the 2024 summer transfer window, as it is a big one for Tottenham. Before that, Ali, do you want to let everyone know about the benefits of using NordVPN?
Of course, yeah. No, I mentioned Japan and Korea, and football.london will be covering those tours across the world again, and chucking me over there to get in the midst of it all. And when I'm there, of course, as I always do, I shall be using NordVPN to be able to connect to things I need to connect to back home, and then be able to watch shows in my very little bits of downtime that I get on these mad and crazy pre-season tours. Especially Korea with Sonny is just, having witnessed that 2 years ago, it is remarkable. It's just an amazing sight. But yeah, with NordVPN, I know that I'm getting the fastest VPN in the world, which means there's no buffering, no lagging, and you can stream your favorite shows from anywhere in the world without your bandwidth throttling. And it's something we've had many people get in touch with the show. Sometimes people leave comments under the videos. Sometimes they'll just tag us on Twitter or other social media platforms, or X as we need to call it nowadays, just letting us know that it worked for them, and that's great. And we wouldn't kind of partner up and plug something that we didn't also feel was a great service as well ourselves. And also, the Outlander NordVPN subscription is cheaper for you in the long run, because it means you can purchase streaming services or bookings from other countries at a much cheaper rate. So, for example, you could book flights from another country, from your destination country, let's say, rather than booking them from the UK. You just flip a little switch on your device that makes it think it's in that other country too. So it means you're paying out for Nord, but you're actually saving money overall. There's a whole host of other benefits from signing up to NordVPN, including things like increased security if you're using public Wi-Fi. So why not give it a go? To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/goldguest. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and it'll help support our podcast. In case you missed it just then, the link is in the episode description box. We should just quickly say as well, back to the released and retained list and all this sort of stuff. Well, first off, I just wanted to very quickly say the retained list. One of my favourite things about looking through the retained list that the club puts out is the incredible names that players have got. I always remember in the past, Toby Alderweireld and Vincent Janssen having amazing names. I think what were they now?
I think Toby was Albertine, middle
that
name.
rings a bell. Vincent Janssen had an incredible one. That was Vincent Petrus Anna Sebastian Janssen. It was the Anna. I always remember thinking, that's incredible. I was looking through the lists this time around, and just, the names are fantastic. Emerson is up there with having the best set of names ever, because I obviously, with a lot of kind of especially Brazilian footballers, they have like a nickname becomes one of their names, which appears that Royale is that, because his names are Emerson Aprecido Leite de Souza Jr. is his name. What a brilliant set of names. I love that. And do you know what? Tongi's, I don't know whether it's his middle name or not, actually. Oh, no, it will be, yeah. Tongi's middle name.
I have no idea. I'm sure some people would have a few suggestions.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that, as if like it was going to be Kevin or something like that. Barry. It is actually Alvaro. Tongi Alvaro Ondembele. I did not know that. Porro's got a load. Pedro Antonio Porro Sauceda. Some really. I'm not going to go through the whole list. Christian Romero Gabriel, his middle name. Little interesting moments there, and also some young players got released as well, didn't they, in the last couple of days?
Yes, I was actually just going to mention that on the subject of South Korea, because I think you were due to interview one of them in South Korea. That was Charlie Sayers, who joined a couple of seasons ago from Southend. He made, I think, about 8 appearances for them in the National League. Spurs bought him, and unfortunately, it's just not worked out for Charlie. And he's one of those who's been released along with Billy Heaps from the development squad. Sayers had actually been involved in first team training a couple of times. I think I can remember one of them was ahead of the North London derby. I think that was the 3-0 game, 2022. Went on the pre-season tour that summer. You were due to interview him. How did that go? Yeah,
poor Charlie. He and I should say that Charlie had a serious eye injury. Was it a year back? It was a little while back, which there was some real scare around that, a real worry about it, but thankfully kind of ended up continuing to play. And I hope he does have a really kind of good career ahead of him still. But yeah, Charlie was, I was meant to go and interview him, just me as like a one-on-one thing in Korea, because it was a bit of a lovely story that Southend-born lad, he'd actually played, I think, a couple of times for Southend as well. And here he was in Seoul, so in Korea. So it was going to be this whole Southend to Seoul, like this really kind of cool little interview. But poor Charlie was so knackered out by not only the jet lag and also Conte's grueling pre-season training sessions out there. You might remember the stars all dropping like flies by the side of the pitch. He slept through my interview. Not there. He wasn't sat in the room just like snoring. I turned up at the hotel, the team hotel, ready to interview him, and they just could not get a rise out, get him out. They were trying to ring him. I think someone even knocked on his door. I mean, that may have been that he might have just thought, I don't want that muppet interviewing me. He might have thought that, but yeah, that kind of it's one of those where you've got to admit, as a journalist at the time, it was like, oh, that's a shame. It hadn't been like Harry Kane at the time. He'd probably been absolutely devastated. But at the time, because it was a young player, I still think it would have been his only ever interview, I think, unless he did some he might have done some at Southend kind of early years. But yeah, I did also appreciate the fact that they were absolutely shattered on that tour. You could see them as they were walking around at times like zombies. But yeah, I just, for all of these young players, it's a big kind of moment, a crossroads in their career. Having reported on non-league football in the past many years ago, I've seen the amount of players that come out of academies and end up dropping all the way down to non-league football and trying to still make a go of it. And sometimes they can't even do that, and they end up going into different kinds of professions. So yeah, it's a big moment in all of their careers. Those two, and also the two young players, Kieran Morgan and Hannah Willoff-King, that both left. Although I think Hannah Willoff-King had a contract he was offered, it seems to be on the retained list, but chose to kind of head off elsewhere. They've all put out, or certainly a few of them I've seen thus far, have put out nice little messages about their time at the club. But yeah, it is a crossroads moment for them, and can only wish them the best. And that's kind of is an academy thing, isn't it? You're always going to lose players every year. It's such a high level that certain ones aren't going to quite make it, or they'll sense opportunities elsewhere. And it's all about what they do next. And hopefully they have good people around them, help them make good decisions, and just are lucky with injuries and steer clear of them.
Yeah, moving on now to the transfer window for Spurs. Big one for Tottenham this summer is a lot to, improve on finishing in 5th place last season. One player who continues to be linked with a move to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is Chelsea's Conor Gallagher. He's also been linked with Aston Villa. I think they're keen on signing him, and there's talk of Atletico Madrid as well. So he's certainly not going to be short of options. Go on, Ali. I'll let you answer this. Conor Gallagher, would he be a good signing for Spurs? Because I know there's a number of fans who've maybe suggested he isn't the midfielder Tottenham should be looking at this summer.
I'm just in a completely different game. I really like Conor Gallagher. Maybe I'm seeing something different to other people. I think he's a really good footballer. I mean, he's 24 years old, captain of Chelsea for much of this season as well. I watched the dreadful England match the other night, and actually he was one of the standout players for me. I thought he was really good in that game. Every time I've seen him, I've seen a lot of the kind of the plus sides and the benefits to what he does, and I can see him in the Postecoglou system absolutely reveling in it. I just think he's a really good, still quite young player as well. I think, like you say, there's going to be a lot of interest in him. It's one of the weirdest kind of transfer chases I've seen in a long time, though, in terms of doesn't seem to want to go. He doesn't seem to have any real interest in leaving Chelsea. This is the club he's kind of come through at. He's, like I say, the captain for much of this season, had a really good relationship with Poch by the looks of it too. But they're just such a kind of a mess they're in, Chelsea, that they need to get players out the door ahead of this financial deadline at the end of this month for the accounts for FFP. And obviously, we're very well aware now that the homegrown talents are the ones that you can get what's called a pure profit on, and it means more in these final books. but it's just weird. You've got teams that are kind of linked with him, and it sounds like Villa have held some kind of very early exploratory talks about maybe bringing him in. Yeah, it's a player that if you gave him the option would say, no, I want to stay, but they still haven't agreed a deal with a year left. It's Spurs have been interested for a while. We know that. There's what we had the last 2-3 windows where it's been Conor Gallagher kind of stuff involved in it. Postecoglou likes him. And like I said, I can see why, because I do feel like within his system, he would sit very nicely in it. He likes getting up and down the pitch. He'd kind of be a really good 8, I guess, in that system, in the way he gets box to box. The financial side of it, I wonder whether that's where Spurs could have some kind of advantage, perhaps, because with Villa, they had their own FFP problems, and there's a lot of talk, and from people within that club as well. Some of the higher ups. I saw one press conference was one of the higher ups that they did, or a fans meeting or something. I can't remember what it was now, where they were saying, yes, we do need to kind of get back in line with all of that. So there's been a lot of talk about Douglas Luiz heading off, and Juventus are very keen, and there's been some talk of Arsenal as well as a potential destination. But they would have to. It's a weird situation because surely they would have to get him out the door this month, which is the indication that they are willing to let that happen. But then surely, if you're then trying to sign Conor Gallagher, who all indications are will be north of 50 million, because Chelsea rate him as being in the same bracket, if not higher, as Mason Mount was, who left with a year left, and what was he? He was almost 60 million to United, wasn't he? Around that. So how would that work with Villa's books to sell a player for, I don't know what Luiz would go for, maybe around that sort of mark? I don't know whether Juventus could afford that sort of money right now, but then to replace him instantly with a player that would cost similar. I mean, yeah, there's probably ways of structuring the deal, I guess, but it would seem to me that Villa you would think would make more sense for them to try to get him next month after the books have closed, but that's of no use to Chelsea this month. In which case you would think with Spurs, who aren't in those kind of financial issues, they could then make the case, well, if you need to sell him, hello, we're here. But also, would Spurs spend that? I mean, I'll put that question to you. Would Spurs spend that sort of money on a player with 1 year left in his contract? I mean, Maddison was 40 with a year left. Basuma was about 30 with a year left, maybe a bit less. Would they spend, what, 55, almost 60 million is kind of some of the talk on a player with 1 year left in his deal?
No, I think they'd have to try and get it closer to what they paid for James Maddison. Definitely. I think he's a really good player. Conor Gallagher can play in a number of positions. I mean, there were big question marks over his place in the Chelsea team under Pochettino, but I think he played 37 or 38 games. He was suspended for one of them, captaining them with Reece James and Ben Chilwell out injured. So I think it'd be a really good signing. I think someone who Postecoglou could probably even extract even more from. But it's just the transfer fee. What's the big sticking point? And let's be honest, Spurs and Chelsea don't usually deal.
That's
what was
the
the
other
last
part, isn't it? Yeah.
deal? Cudicini, maybe? Was that
Yeah, I
late
think so.
2000s?
There's been a few where they've tried, and then there was a big hoo-ha over Llorente when they kind of snatched Llorente away from them at the last minute. Whether it's any different under the new owners is another thing, or say new, they're not as new anymore. But yeah, it's certainly Spurs have tried a fair few in the past and have kind of just been shut down quite quickly. Absolutely, that's another element to it. But then, yeah, they could maybe be desperate to do it. I just wanted to double check because I did feel like Conor Gallagher had been a bit of a goal threat as well. And he has 50 appearances for Chelsea last season, 7 goals and 9 assists, which isn't bad for a player that's kind of more of a box-to-box player than a attacking number 10 type. But yeah, I agree. I think that would be a sticking point. Maybe most other years, but maybe this year they'll sense an opportunity, kind of blood in the water, as it were.
Yeah, I think if they're desperate, they will probably end up selling to anyone as long as the offer is right. And I think what you're saying in terms of if Villa want to move next month, it opens the door for Spurs to move. But the problem you've got is Gallagher's going to be in the England squad, and very rare you see transfer deals done when a player is away on international duty. I think one off the top of my head that I can remember was when Jordan Pickford joined Everton. I think he was on England under 21 duty in the summer. So
Yeah.
whether a lot of that had been done prior to going away on international duty, I'm not sure, but very rare you're going to see players involved in international football in the summer, seal a move whilst they are away playing. But yeah,
Right.
I think it'd be a good signing. And let's be honest, if Højbjerg's gone to go, is an upgrade on Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. And that's what you want at the end of the day, to upgrade your squad.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just the transfer fee.
It is. And I think you make a great point about the time period as well, because we've said on previous pods that the expectation around the club is that they were going to try and get a couple of deals done before January, before that'd be a rubbish wait, before June was done. But you're spot on that's a period that crosses right into international tournament territory with the Euros and Copa America. So that will be the period when Chelsea will be at their most desperate, but also the point when Chelsea maybe can't sell Conor Gallagher because he's involved with England at the Euros, hopefully deep into the tournament. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens with that whole scenario and who else comes in and what if he was, let's say he was given the choice of Villa, Spurs and Atletico. I'm sure others might kind of come out of the woodwork as well if they sensed a fee was being agreed, because that's not as cut and dried really. I think at Spurs there's a lot of competition, but he could probably see, especially if Postecoglou really wants him, he could see himself being a regular, not guaranteed starter, but a regular starter. Villa, great crop of players as well. Exciting period in their time. Champions League football. Let's talk of Ross Barkley going there as well, isn't there? Yeah, it's an Atletico, of course, for Atletico. You've got Diego Simeone, you've got a terrific club to kind of play for, and an amazing experience for an Englishman. And he'll obviously in the England squad, Kieran Trippier will have been able to tell him what that's all about as well. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's cut and dried, but I would be stunned if Spurs don't make some attempts to try and get involved in this properly as this month goes on.
Yeah, you could also speak to Matt Doherty as well about
less successful, but yes.
But yeah,
how many games did he play? Was it about 2?
A handful of games.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't much, but you can't fault him for going to a club of that stature, the chance to play in the Champions League, like a once in a lifetime move, really.
Him and Reguilon, a competition to play the least, wasn't it, that summer?
Probably. Yeah, but yeah, big decision for Gallagher. I think Villa and Atletico would offer Champions League football. Spurs, the pull for Spurs might be he gets to stay in London where he's already comfortable, perhaps.
Yeah,
which could have a big bearing on it. But we'll wait and see. I think his name's going to be in the headlines, quite a lot over the coming weeks and months. In terms of other transfers, then at Tottenham, I think you mentioned earlier on the pod, Antonio Conte's been named as Napoli's new manager. That could be interesting to see how that goes with De Laurentiis as chairman, as president.
Yeah. Who were his favourites? Who would you say out of this Spurs squad would be the kind of ones he'd look at? Højbjerg used to call Hobby would definitely be one of them, you'd think.
Yeah, Højbjerg definitely. I'm sure he'd have Son if he could. I can't see that happening though.
Wasn't there sort of random link that suddenly came up with Son and Fenerbahce and Mourinho?
Really?
Yeah, I think again it was Turkish media. I think it suddenly came out with, and then I saw it was only a tweet, and I really probably should have clicked on it, but I'm very hesitant to do that. But I saw something about how Daniel Levy had come out and made a statement saying that was not true. I don't think there's been any point in history that Daniel Levy has come out to us and made a statement that something wasn't true. But yeah, that would be remarkable. Again, it's absolutely no chance in the world, you would think. But yeah, that was a random one. I wondered whether
Kulusevski's been linked.
Yes, Kulusevski.
That was a couple of months ago, but he's played that down.
Yes, he was asked about that. I wondered whether, because Jose quite liked Joe Rodon, I wonder whether Jose would maybe try and take Joe Rodon to Fenerbahce, where he would do very, very well. I was trying to think of other ones. Conte kind of like Emerson.
Maybe. I tell you what would be a good one for Conte after his spell in Italy. Jed Spence.
Jed Spence.
Club
Jed
signing.
Spence. It's an interesting one because Genoa seemed to be quite kind of willing to try to get some kind of agreement there. Obviously, they weren't going to pay the 8.5 million that was previously agreed in the option. And from what I understand, Jed would be open to going back there as well. I think he quite enjoyed his time at Genoa. And it was a good moment for him in his career, I think. But yeah, maybe Conte Napoli, maybe less likely. Can you imagine if he was like, club signing, the club wanted to sign him again? Just imagine that little, I still remember that little moment. It was like a little huddle. We were around him doing a little interview, the English journalist out in Korea. And Jed hadn't even signed yet. And just those words come out of his mouth. Yeah, and the club wanted to sign him. And I was like, oh, here we go. There you go. Jed's done already. And I was trying to think of anyone else. I mean, by all means, those listening to this, let us know on social media. Those watching this on YouTube, put them in the comments. Which players do you think Conte and Mourinho would probably like to take from Tottenham? Because yeah, I'd imagine there'll be a few. I mean,
I think Højbjerg's got to be the standout.
Højbjerg is the main one.
Yeah.
I mean, Reguilon didn't. Did he really plan the Conte? Did he really? Mourinho, he did. But yeah, it's two very different leagues, of course.
Yeah. Moving on then. Tottenham released a brand new kit at the beginning of this week. I believe you were at the club shop buying the pro version.
Yeah, I had to take a mortgage out to do it, a second mortgage to get it.
Before we talk about the prices, what are obscene, what do you make of the kit? I think it's very smart, to be honest. We'd all seen the leaked images a while ago, but it's when you see it on the players, it does look a lot better, and it makes for a change. I mean, there's only so much you can do with a plain white shirt, and it does bear a resemblance to the Kappa shirt from the 05-06 season when Martin Jol was in charge. The shirt's nice. I think the shorts are really smart with the blue and white on the bottom of them. Yeah.
You got your 45 quid ready, have you, to buy the shorts?
That's the cost of a football shirt a few years ago. It's crazy.
It's just mad. Yeah, it's an all right shirt. It's fine. I do agree. It gives me massive kind of Martin Jol flashbacks, Robbie Keane, Edgar Davids, that kind of era, Michael Carrick. Hopefully Spurs will be wearing this one as they lift a trophy rather than a plate of lasagna. That would be great. Yeah, I'm with you that most of these shirts look horrendous when you see them kind of crumpled or in a heap in the photos that you see on social media in the months ahead. But when you actually see them on a player, yeah, it looks quite smart. I agree that it's difficult to do too much with these shirts. There's some people that say it should just be plain white, and then you'll get different people saying it's so boring, it's always the same, and it's like, well, you kind of can't have it both ways, really. I know some people wanted to keep the all-white look. I wasn't keen on doing that because I feel like the all-white look for Spurs, including the shorts, should be saved for those special kind of European nights. I quite like that. And I have always liked the navy shorts as well. Yeah, it's fine. What did you think of the little announcement video, launch video? Time to rise. They like to put rise in there all the time. I don't really get the obsession with that. It's kind of almost saying every year, yeah, we're trying to get better. We're trying to rise. We're not actually at the top, but we're trying to rise there.
I've seen better promotional videos, put it that way. I didn't rate it at all.
You did? Oh, look at you. Look at you, you film critic, you. It was all right. It was just a little nod. I like the little nod to Terry Venables. That was like a nice little classy touch with the Eltel spot at the bar, a little Peter Crouch bit. Yeah, I quite like Decky's little cameo as well. It was all right. It's all right. I mean, as good as these things can get, it's all about the shirt, really, isn't it? And how it looks. But it's those prices. I just can't get away from the prices. Honestly, nothing I feel ages me quite as much as looking at football shirt prices. I haven't bought the actual like football, the first team top in a while, Normally, I get like a training top or something to do five-a-side, and I might buy the shorts from time to time. But I did back in the day, probably talking 6-7 years back, because my birthday's in August. I would always ask my wife to get me the latest shirt
Full
for my
kit.
birthday. The full kit. You know what? I knew you were going to say full kit.
You set yourself up there.
Yeah, I did set myself up. But I would, ask for the shirt for my birthday. And I always remember it being about 40, 45 quid. And that was kind of the price. I remember when it was like 30 quid way back. But yeah, when you look at it now, it's £85. And that's just for what they call a stadium shirt. When did that happen? When did they become a shirt that you could wear as a fan in the ground? Oh, but by the way, if you want to spend 125 quid, we'll actually give you the shirt that they would wear, that kind of shirt. That's just incredible. But it winds me up even more than the prices as much as the prices. When did it become every year? It feels like that kind of got snuck in about, 7-8 years ago, maybe a bit more, maybe 10 years ago. It used to be every 2 years.
I think in terms of the Everton kits, they've had a new home shirt every year since 2002. So it's probably
that long.
Yeah. I think it's probably the same for the vast majority of clubs now. I think Brentford are the only team who have their home kit for 2 years.
Yeah.
That's it. And it should be like that. What it should be is
or staggered.
Home kit for 2 years, brand new away kit. Then that away kit becomes your third kit the following season.
Oh, interesting.
That's what it should be.
Is that done anywhere else, or is that a Rob Guest official idea?
No, I think that's how it used to be, pretty much in the 90s.
Oh, did it really? I don't remember that. What, the away kit became the third kit, the change kit?
I think so for some clubs.
Oh wow! I don't remember that. That's a cracking bit of knowledge.
I mean, it might have just been Everton, to be honest. I'm sure that was the case. Well, it makes sense anyway.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I just find it ridiculous. You've got 3 new kits every year. Training wear now. There was a jacket that Vicario was wearing that was very nice, but that's £130 just to buy the warm up jacket thing they come out on. And look, I know you don't have to buy them. Of course you don't. It is a choice. They're not forcing it upon you. But when you look at it as a whole, with the kits, with the ticket prices, whether that be season tickets or match day prices, it's just so expensive. And yeah, there's a certain degree of it's the manufacturers setting the prices. The Nike new away shirt for England, which is really nice. That's 85 quid as well. Although I would say, I was looking at the kits that have come out thus far. There's only, I think, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, and Spurs are the 4 that I could find that have come out. All of their stadium home shirts, 80 quid. Why are Spurs £5 more? What have Spurs done to merit a 5 quid more expensive shirt? And Liverpool's Nike.
And Liverpool's is £80.
Yeah, £80. So
might
Spurs
be London prices.
That's ridiculous. No, there should never be. You know, those teams have finished higher, won silverware in recent years. There's no way Spurs should have the most expensive home shirt of that bunch. So yeah, something's not quite right there. And I did a little bit of adding up as well. If you were a family of 4, parents both wanted a shirt to go to a match in to cheer on the team. And let's say your 2 kids were 9-10 years old and they wanted the full kits because they go out and play football in them at the weekends with their mates or whatever. For the 4 of you, 2 shirts and 2 kids full kits, £402. £402.
That's like half a season ticket price.
Yeah,
Spurs maybe for a seat.
roughly that for the probably the cheaper end tickets. Very much cheaper end tickets. But yeah, it's just mad, and it's just I could rant for an entire podcast about the prices of things nowadays and how much they've gone up. Look, there's some people that will point out that in terms of inflation, it kind of has gone up at a kind of a regular price compared to everything else in the world. But still, for me, that is just mad. And yeah, I won't be returning to my old ways of asking for one for my birthday because I don't want that coming out of the family bank account because that's just too much. I will potentially look at a training top later in the season just to have a kick around in.
Yeah, I think even when they are reduced at the end of the season, they're like £45 still.
Yeah.
And that
How
was
much are
the price.
Everton kits normally?
I had a look. It was £65 for the home shirt last season. I bought the away shirt about a month ago, so it was £15.
Really?
Is, yeah, fair enough. £15 all right on the shirt.
Are they able to transfer the badges on the arms to like Premier League to Championship if needed?
I'm not even going to answer that.
They don't need it anyway. You don't need it. You stayed up.
But
All good.
Next season, I think it's Castor who have done the Villa and Wolves and Newcastle shirts recently. That's who Everton are going with. So I'm not sure on the prices of those shirts.
Well, they'll probably have to put them up to make sure you don't get points deductions again, won't they? Just need to claw in some money from somewhere. But it's mad when you look at the deals that Spurs have as well. The AIA's shirt sponsorship deal was 40 million a year they get for that. It was a 320 million pound 8-year deal that they did for that. Nike, they get reportedly 30 million pound a year for that. So that's 70 million a year just from like the kit stuff before you've even sold them. And also, we should stress those prices that we said about the shirts. That's not including getting a name and number on the back. You know, I would pick the shortest possible name to put on the back of my shirt if I had to do that. No Kulusevski's for me. That is just what is the shortest one? It's probably Son. It's got to be, isn't it? Can't think of anyone else.
I imagine numbers are probably £5 or £6 each. Letters, maybe £1.50 each.
Yeah, I'd probably just get A. Just get A. Just one letter. That's my initial.
But I think as well, some just do printing as a standard price. Some clubs it might be £12 for any name and number.
Right. Maybe. But yeah, it's still on top. I mean, it takes it to what, 100 quid almost, doesn't it? And I think we're looking. I don't think it'll be long before we get £100 shirts, just as the normal stadium one. I was just looking in my little searches at the other clubs. Liverpool sell the shorts, the elite shorts that the players wear, £63. £63 for a pair of shorts.
Would actually be interesting
to put things in.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how many of those they actually sell.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you kind of suggesting that walking around Liverpool, there's a lot of full kit people just walking around in the elite kits?
I mean, how can you justify £65 on a pair of football shorts?
I don't.
You can't.
Know. It's mad. Even the socks are 18 quid. Arsenal socks are 20. Just a pair of socks.
Big money now.
It is, but you can understand why people go the dodgier routes and get like the knockoff ones from around the world, because it's just they're being priced out of the game they love, aren't they? It's just mad.
Yeah. Right, I think we'll leave that there for today's latest episode of Golden Guest Talk. Tottenham will be back next week for the podcast. As ever, just keep with us at football.london for all your latest Tottenham news. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/goldguest. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and you'll help support our podcast. The link is in the episode description box.